Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are about to witness one of the most incredible journeys in human history. Over the next few minutes, the land we now call Canada will transform before your eyes. Watch thousands of years pass in a fixed camera time lapse as glaciers disappear, forests spread across the landscape, ancient hunters arrive, powerful indigenous civilizations rise, European explorers sail into unknown waters, colonies expand, a nation is born, railways unite the continent, cities reach toward the sky, and modern Canada becomes one of the world's largest and most diverse countries. This is the complete evolution of Canada across more than 9,000 years of history. Our journey begins around 9000 BCE. Massive ice sheets that once covered nearly all of Canada are slowly retreating after the last ice age. Enormous glaciers melt into rivers and lakes, carving valleys and creating the Great Lakes. Vast tundra stretches across the landscape where forests have not yet grown. Woolly mammoths have already disappeared from most regions, while giant herds of caribou roam the open plains. The climate is becoming warmer every century. As centuries pass, the first known peoples continue moving across the land. Small groups of hunters and gatherers travel carefully through forests, grasslands, and river valleys. They follow migrating animals, fish in clear rivers, and gather berries, roots, and medicinal plants. Stone spear points, bone tools, and carefully crafted weapons become essential for survival. Families move with the seasons, adapting to one of the harshest environments on Earth. By 7000 BCE, forests begin expanding across southern Canada. Pine, spruce, birch, and maple trees spread over the landscape. Wildlife flourishes. Moose, black bears, wolves, beavers, and countless bird species establish themselves across the forest's rivers become highways connecting distant communities. Thousands of years continue passing rapidly. Indigenous cultures grow increasingly diverse. Every region develops its own traditions, languages, and technologies suited to local environments. Along the Pacific coast, communities become expert fishermen, harvesting enormous salmon runs every year. Cedar trees provide wood for homes, tools, canoes, and ceremonial carvings. Along the Arctic coast, northern peoples master survival in freezing conditions, developing specialized clothing, snow shelters, and hunting techniques unlike anywhere else in the world. Around 3000 BCE, permanent seasonal villages begin appearing in several regions. Families return to familiar fishing grounds every year. Trade networks slowly emerge between distant communities. Beautiful shells from the Pacific coast, copper from the Great Lakes region, and rare stones travel hundreds of kilometers through carefully maintained exchange routes. As the centuries continue, indigenous knowledge of the land becomes extraordinarily sophisticated. Controlled burning helps maintain healthy forests. Rivers are carefully managed for fishing. Canoes become masterpieces of engineering, allowing travel across thousands of lakes and waterways. Oral traditions preserve history, astronomy, medicine, and cultural identity across countless generations. By 1000 BCE, agriculture begins spreading into parts of southern Canada. Corn, beans, and squash gradually become important crops for some communities. Villages become larger and more permanent. Longhouses appear in eastern woodlands, housing multiple families under a single roof. Population slowly increases throughout the region. As we approach the beginning of the Common Era, Canada's landscapes are alive with hundreds of thriving indigenous nations. Every region has developed unique languages, ceremonies, artistic traditions, and political systems. Trade routes connect communities across vast distances. Copper tools, decorative carvings, woven clothing, pottery, and finely crafted weapons demonstrate remarkable skill and innovation. Between 500 and 900 CE, coastal societies construct impressive villages featuring enormous wooden houses and towering carved poles representing family history and spiritual beliefs. Inland communities continue expanding trade while adapting to changing climates. Across the Arctic, northern peoples perfect techniques for surviving extreme winters through extraordinary knowledge passed from generation to generation. Around the year 1000 CE, an extraordinary event changes North American history forever. Across the Atlantic Ocean, Norse explorers from Greenland sail westward. They establish a small settlement at Lance Auxiliary Meadows in present-day Newfoundland. Although the settlement lasts only a short time, it becomes the earliest known European presence in North America, centuries before Columbus. For hundreds of years afterward, Indigenous civilizations continue flourishing across Canada. Powerful confederacies form in eastern forests. Skilled hunters navigate northern wilderness. Pacific coastal nations build complex societies based upon fishing, trade, and remarkable woodworking. Life continues according to rhythms established over thousands of years. Then, during the late 1400s, a new era begins. European kingdoms search desperately for shorter trade routes to Asia. Their ships venture farther into the Atlantic Ocean than ever before. Unknown lands wait beyond the horizon, and Canada is about to enter a completely new chapter that will reshape its future forever. The year is 1497. Far across the Atlantic Ocean, European explorers are searching for a western route to Asia. Instead, they encounter the rich fishing grounds of the North Atlantic. Italian navigator John Cabot, sailing under the English flag, reaches the coast of what is now Newfoundland. His voyage marks the beginning of a new era of European exploration in Canada. Soon, fishing fleets from England, France, Portugal, and Spain begin arriving every summer. The Grand Banks become one of the richest fishing regions on Earth. Cod is harvested in enormous quantities, dried along the shore, and shipped back to Europe. Temporary fishing camps gradually appear along the rugged coastline. During the early 1500s, French explorer Jacques Cartier sails deep into the Gulf of St. Lawrence and travels upriver into the heart of the continent. He meets indigenous communities who have lived here for countless generations. Cartier claims the land for France, although permanent settlements have yet to be established. His expeditions reveal the enormous possibilities of the interior and the importance of the mighty St. Lawrence River. As decades pass, European maps become increasingly detailed. Fur traders recognize the incredible value of beaver pelts, which are in high demand across Europe for fashionable hats. Trade relationships develop between indigenous nations and European merchants. Canoes loaded with furs travel along ancient waterways that indigenous peoples have used for thousands of years. In 1608, Samuel de Champlain founds Quebec City. What begins as a small fortified settlement soon becomes the center of New France. Wooden buildings rise above the riverbanks, defensive walls are constructed, and farming begins along the fertile valleys. Missionaries, soldiers, craftsmen, and settlers slowly increase the colony's population. The fur trade expands rapidly. French voyagers paddle thousands of kilometers through rivers and lakes, reaching deep into the interior. They rely heavily on indigenous knowledge of navigation, survival, and geography. Trading posts appear farther west every decade, connecting vast regions of the continent. By the mid-1600s, New France continues growing despite harsh winters and difficult living conditions. Farms spread along the St. Lawrence River. Windmills grind grain. Churches become the centers of many communities. At the same time, alliances and rivalries among indigenous nations and European powers shape the political landscape of North America. Further south, British colonies also expand. Competition between France and Britain intensifies as both seek control over territory, trade, and strategic waterways. Forts are constructed throughout the wilderness, each representing growing imperial ambitions. The 1700s bring nearly constant conflict. A series of colonial wars spreads across North America as European rivalries reach the continent. Settlements strengthen their defenses while soldiers march through forests that had long been home to indigenous peoples. Everything changes in 1759 during the Battle of the Plains of Abraham near Quebec City. British forces defeat the French after a dramatic battle lasting only a short time but carrying enormous consequences. Both commanding generals lose their lives, yet Britain's victory shifts the balance of power forever. In 1763, the Treaty of Paris officially ends the 7 Years' War. France surrenders most of its North American territories to Britain. Canada enters a new British era, although French language, culture, religion, and legal traditions continue shaping everyday life in Quebec. British administrators gradually establish new systems of government while attempting to balance the interests of English-speaking settlers, French Canadians, and Indigenous nations. Tensions remain high across the growing colonies. The American Revolution begins in 1775. While the 13 colonies fight for independence, many loyalists remain faithful to the British Crown. After the United States gains independence, tens of thousands of loyalists migrate north into British North America. Entire new communities emerge in present-day Ontario, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, dramatically changing Canada's population. The Constitutional Act of 1791 divides the colony into Upper Canada and Lower Canada. English-speaking and French-speaking populations develop under separate administrations while immigration from Europe steadily increases. During